Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says Bail Law Reform. The article here is speaking about the directive issued by the Supreme Court of India to the central government to come up with reforms when it comes to granting of the bail. As of now, the Supreme Court feels that whenever a person has to take bail from the court of law, it has become a cumbersome process. It has become quite complicated as well. So it is requesting the central government to simplify this particular process and come up with a law. It is in this particular backdrop we will try and understand what is a bail, why is the Supreme Court asking the central government come up with this particular initiative, and what is the United Kingdom model which it is asking for the state to implement it. Let us try and understand everything under this article. First up, we have to understand a bit of a background. There is one of the important articles in the Indian Constitution, which is Article 21. Article 21 is one among the golden triangles of the Indian fundamental rights. When we speak about Article 21, it guarantees right to life as well as personal liberty. It is this liberty which allows the person to walk freely. It is this liberty which will allow the person and give wings to his ambitions as well. But when this liberty is snatched away, this person can be arrested and he can be put behind bars as well. So whenever this person is to be put behind bars, we are snatching away the fundamental right of this particular person. So whenever we are snatching away the fundamental right of this particular person, there has to be due procedure as well. The fundamental right snatching away must also adhere to just, fair and reasonable procedure. This is where we have what is called as the due process of law. What is this due process of law? So whenever a person is arrested, his particular liberty will be snatched away. So the minute it is snatched away, it means he'll be confined behind the bars as well. So whenever he is behind the bars, when he is arrested by the police officers, he has to be produced before the court of law within 24 hours. So what will the judiciary do? The police arrest this particular person. They have to produce this person within 24 hours in the nearby court, and the court will scrutinize whether this particular person will have to be released or not. During this particular process, there is another procedure in the court of law which is called as the bail. So whether bail has to be given to this particular person or not will be decided by the court of law. As of now, it is quite cumbersome. It has become complicated. There are too many procedures. So the Supreme Court is asking the central government, you simplify this particular process where we should be granting bail to this particular person because liberty is ultimately important. So all, irrespective of the person's position or rank, irrespective of whether this particular person is rich or poor, he should be able to get the bail. And we also have a legal doctrine which says that bail is a rule, jail is an exception. This was also laid out by the Supreme Court of India in the landmark judgment of State of Rajasthan versus Balchand alias Balia. So this article clearly points out that if there is a person who is not granted bail, it is snatching away his liberty. So we have to bring reforms. So it is directing the central government to introduce these reforms. But why is the Supreme Court of India asking the central government to come up with it? That is because according to Supreme Court of India, it feels that the number of convictions that are happening over a period of time is comparatively low. What do we mean by convictions? Let's say for example, there is an accused. This particular person may have committed that crime or may not have committed that crime. If he has committed this crime, the court of law will examine all the evidences and ultimately convict him. So it means it is proved in the court of law and this person will be put behind bars. But who is an under trial? An under trial is a person, it is yet not proved that it is this person who has committed this crime. So what is happening in most of the cases? In most of the cases, according to the Supreme Court, it is not proved, conviction is not happening, conviction is very low, so why not give the bail? So if this person is not convicted ultimately, it means that he is just the accused. So we should give him the liberty, we should free him as well, and we should allow him that you follow the procedure and ultimately you will not be denied the bail. So this article currently goes on to say that apart from the low conviction rate, what we are following is a colonial mindset, and this means there are excessive arrests that are being made by the police officers, and this happens to look like a police state. So what we have to do is make sure that these unnecessary arrests that are taking place over a period of time is also reduced. So because we have a colonial mindset law, because the conviction is comparatively less, and also because there are unnecessary arrests that are made, we need to bring reforms, says the Supreme Court of India. Now the question is, what is this bail? So when we speak about bail, what is it? It is the temporary release of a prisoner in exchange for security given for the prisoner's appearance at a later hearing. Let me simplify this process for you. Let's say, for example, there is a person who is arrested by the police officer. So this person is taken to the court of law within 24 hours. So he will also put a bail application as well. So what is this bail basically? So this person will not be sent behind the bars. He will be allowed to open up in the society as well. He would be able to roam in the society as well. But this also means that there are some criteria that are drawn by the court of law. So this criterion that is drawn by the court of law means that he has to appear before the court of law at a particular time in a designated place. Whenever he is summoned, he has to go before the court of law. So a bail is given to such a person who is an accused but yet not convicted, but he will be able to freely roam in the society. So basically, procuring the release of a person from the legal custody by undertaking that he or she shall appear at a specific time at a designated place, and he may give the surety or may not give the surety in multiple other cases as well. So this person is accused and this person will be allowed to walk free in the society, but then he has to come to the court of law as per the criterion laid by the court of law. Now let's look into one of the landmark judgments of the Supreme Court, Superintendent and Remembrance of Legal Affairs versus Amya Kumar Roy Chaudhary. According to this judgment, whenever a bail is being given, it has to look into two important parameters. One, every person who has committed that particular offense, it has to be proved in the court of law. So we have a legal doctrine that the presumption of innocence of an accused till he is found guilty. So because he is not found guilty, because he is not convicted yet, so he should be given the bail. That is one of the premise. On the other hand, this person may have taken away the right of the victim. So we have to safeguard the society from the hazards of this particular person. So indeed, if he is going to threaten the witnesses, if he is going to destroy the evidences, in such a case, we may put him behind the bars. These are the important principles derived from this particular judgment. Now the question is, why is the Supreme Court in the present situation asking for a separate law? So it has directed the central government to come up with a separate law. That is because when you look into the CRPC, despite various amendments that we have made since the independence, it largely retains its original structure as drafted by the colonial power. Since it was drafted initially by the colonial power, despite having major amendments, it still looks like the colonial power's rule book, which is why we have to bring the change. So the court made this point to signal that despite its ruling structurally, the court does not account for arrest as a fundamental liberty, which is a major issue. So we have to bring the change. It also says that there has been a lot of discretionary power which have been given to the magistrates, and this discretionary power is not used or utilized in a uniform manner. For a same case, for a similar case, there have been different judgments given by the court of law as well, because the magistrates tend to interpret in a different way. So there is a lot of discretion, which means and few cases where bail should have been given, it is not given, and this is snatching away the liberty of a person. So come up with a new law. Added to it, there is a culture of too many arrests by the police officers as well. So to bring change to all of these, we require a law, says the Supreme Court of India. So what did the court observe? The court said that as of now, there have been excessive arrests, so this has to be avoided. So what this article currently goes on to say, that if you look into the present system, how is the present system of awarding the bail in the CRPC? Under section 436, bail is a right in bailable offences, and the police or court is bound to release the accused following the furnishing of a bail bond with or without the surety. Then we have another important important section, that is section 437, which sets out the circumstances in which courts can grant bail for non-bailable offences. Provision mandates the court to consider granting bail to an accused below 16 years, someone who is sick or is a woman. When it comes to awarding a bail, you can categorize them into bailable offence and the non-bailable offences. Where do you see this? You have the CRPC book. You also have a schedule as well. In that you would be able to understand which of the crimes it is bailable, which of the crimes are non-bailable in nature. So when it comes to the bailable offences, it is a matter of right. Since most of these are minor crimes, it means as a matter of right, this person would be able to get the bail from the court of law. So the minute he applies for the bail, the court in all likelihood may give the bail as well. But in exceptional circumstances, the court may not give as well. So remember, it is a matter of right in the bailable offences. In most of the scenarios, he will be given the bail, but in exceptional circumstances, the court may also not give the bail. But when it comes to the non-bailable offences, it is not a matter of right. It is the discretion of the court of law as well. So the court of law on a case-to-case basis will decide whether this particular person will have to be awarded the bail or not. When it comes to the non-bailable offences, they are usually cognizable in nature, which means the police may arrest without a warrant and the magistrate who is in the court of law determines whether the accused is fit to be released on bail. So remember, as of now, when we speak about bail provisions, we have section 436 of the CRPC and we also have section 437 of the CRPC. And do note, when it comes to the arrest, what exactly happens? We have another important section, that is section 41 of the CRPC, which deals with arrest in a cognizable offence where punishment is imprisonment for a term which may be less than 7 years. So if a person has to be arrested, it will go according to the procedure of CRPC section 41, which speaks about cognizable offence. So a cognizable offence is one where the police officers need not have to take the permission from the magistrate, but they can go ahead directly and arrest this person. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section the examples for cognizable offense and the non-cognizable offense. Then we also have another section, that is section 41A, which relates to a notice of appearance before a policeman in cases where the arrest is not required. So this basically means it gives us a framework of some of the important sections in the CRPC. So this article currently goes on to say that as of now, since the process of getting the bail is cumbersome, it is structurally tough, the court of law is directing the central government to come up with a separate law for the bail. As of now, when we look at the bail, it is part of the CRPC, but the court is asking the central government come up with a new law. This new law will have to simplify this entire process. So you come up with a new law, says the court of law to the central government. In this particular backdrop, it has also taken the example of United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, the Bail Act of 1976 governs the procedure for granting or denying the bail. It recognizes a general right to bail and aims to reduce the number of inmates to prevent clogging of the jails. This happens to be a key feature in the UK model, where it wants to reduce the size of the inmate population, and at the same time the law also has provisions for ensuring legal aid for all the defendants as well. Further, the law says an accused should be granted bail unless there is a justified reason to refuse it. Bail can be rejected if the court finds substantial grounds for believing that the defendant will fail to surrender, commit an offence, or interfere with witnesses if released on bail, and the court has to give reasons in case it withholds or alters bail conditions. So the Supreme Court is asking the central government to follow the UK model, and it has also given some guidelines as well. What are these guidelines? Stressing the need to ensure due procedure for arrest and a time limit for disposal of the bail pleas. The bail pleas have to be disposed of within 2 weeks except when provisions mandate otherwise. A plea for anticipatory bail has to be decided within 6 weeks. Another guideline is that the court need not insist on a formal bail application. So the court, if it feels bail can be given, it should be given as well, and this means that the accused can be granted bail on the court's own discretion in some situations. For instance, when a person is present in the court and is required to appear again later, it can take a bond instead of remanding in custody. So added to the UK law, it has also given that follow these guidelines. guidelines so that please bring up a law, says the Supreme Court of India to the central government. In the past as well, when we go back to the year 2015, the Department of Legal Affairs did ask the Law Commission of India that should we draft a new law when it comes to the bail. But in the year 2015, the Law Commission of India concluded that it was not required. But now we have the Supreme Court making this recommendation. So we have to wait and watch whether the central government will make these changes or not. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, where is population growth taking place? This article here is speaking about the global population. It is also speaking about the Indian population. It is also speaking about likely impact at the global level as well as on India. First up, let's understand some important facts with respect to the World Population Day. The United Nations Development Programme in 1989 established June 11 to be celebrated as World Population Day. The main objective of marking a day for population growth was to enhance awareness of population issues, including their relations to the environment and development. On June 11, 1987, 5 billion day was observed, making the world's population reaching 5 billion. It is in this particular backdrop recently on the World Population Day, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs Population Division released what is called as the World Population Prospects of 2022. So remember, the World Population Prospects is one of the reports that is published by the Population Division of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. This can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. What has the report said? Let's look into the statistics. According to the report, the projection suggests that the world's population could grow to around 8.5 billion in 2030, 9.7 billion in 2050, before reaching a peak of about 10.4 billion in 2100. The population is expected to remain at that level until 2100. Globally, life expectancy reached 72.8 years in 2019, an increase of almost 9 years since 1990. Further, reductions in mortality are projected to result in an average longevity of around 77.2 years globally in 2050. Life expectancy at birth for women exceeded that for men by 5.4 years globally, with female and male life expectancy standing at 73.8 and 68.4 respectively. In 2021, the average fertility or the number of children born to a woman in her productive lifetime of the world's population stood at 2.3 births per woman, having fallen from about 5 births per woman in 1950. Global fertility is projected to decline further 2.1 births per woman by the year 2050. Countries of sub-Saharan Africa are expected to continue growing through 2100 and to contribute more than half of the global population increase anticipated through 2050. More than half of the projected increase in global population up to 2050 will be concentrated in just 8 countries: the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Philippines, and the United Republic of Tanzania. The 46 least developed countries are among the world's fastest growing, and several are projected to double in population between 2022 and 2050. The population of older persons is increasing both in numbers and as a share of the total. The share of the global population aged 65 years or above is projected to rise from 10% in 2022 to 16% in 2050. This basically means the population of the older persons will increase, and the government will have to take steps to adapt public programs so that they can take care of the older persons. This also means that the social security and pension system, universal health care, long-term care systems will also have to be brought into place by the governments in the respective countries. Now, if you look into the global population, in the year 1990, China was at the top, followed by India and United States of America. In 2022, we have China followed by India and United States of America. In 2050, what we will have is India leading the charge, followed by China as well as by United States of America. What will be the implications for India? If we look into the statistics, in 2021, the 5th edition of the India's National Family Health Survey reported that the first time in the country's history, the total fertility rate had hit 2 or below the replacement rate of 2.1. India's population is predicted to grow from its current 1.4 billion to about 1.67 billion in 2050 before settling at around 1.5 billion in 2100 according to official projections, and the population is expected to peak at 1.7 billion sometimes in 2064 according to the UN estimates. This will basically have some positive impact on India, and this will also have challenges for India as well. What are the positive impacts with respect to the population? As of now, when you look at the total fertility rate is decreasing. This basically means that over a period of time, the population will be stabilized, and as we see in the developed countries, what we will have is the improved living standards. So whenever the population reduces, there will be less number of people, and this also means indirectly the living standards of the people in that country will also increase. So the first major advantage for India is when the population stabilizes, this will improve living standards per capita, and greater gender equity will be present in the country. When you look at the population by the year 2050, India will be one of the countries with the highest population. This also means we will also have a large population of the working age people who will be expected to support the older generation as well. So what we will have is a demographic dividend where India would be able to capitalize on it. Added to it, we will have more women as well. More women will also look for opportunities as well, and at the same time, there will be more labor force participation, and this means that women will also be able to generate more job opportunities in the near future. India's claim for the permanent membership in the United Nations Security Council may also get strengthened if it surpasses China and becomes the world's most populous nation in 2023. So, in all likelihood, if India surpasses China's population, India's request for the permanent membership in the United Nations Security Council may also get strengthened as well. And at the same time, if you consider number of countries in Europe, they have the aging population as well. So India would have large number of people who will be migrating from India to some other country. So what we will also have is the diaspora influence in all these countries. These are some of the advantages with the increasing population. However, there are challenges as well. A population of more than 1.4 billion will require large number of infrastructural projects. This will require policymakers to look into multiple aspects of the human well-being like education, nutrition, healthcare, housing, employment, so on and so forth. So the government will have a lot of responsibilities, and it has to come up with new policy initiatives is the first major problem. When we look into the demographic dividend, we did say that large number of people will be working for India. But what if this demographic dividend is not utilized and it becomes the demographic liability? In such a case, it means it can also become a disaster if India is not able to provide employment opportunities to them. So the government will have to think from now and ensure that the youth are skilled enough, and it should also provide them employment opportunities. The climate crisis and other ecological imperatives will also mean that we will leave a lot of footprint. Many activities of the human beings will also impact the environment as well, and India, already being impacted by the climate change, will suffer further because of the anthropogenic induced factors. These are the important challenges that India may face at the Indian level. But if we consider the global level as well, this will affect the economic development, employment opportunities, income distribution, poverty, and social protections, because as the population goes on increasing, all of these will have to be provided to the people. This will also affect the countries because they would not be able to provide universal access to the healthcare. They would not be able to provide education to the large sections of the people. Food and energy will become another major problem to all the countries world over. It will also put additional pressure on the resources that are existing and will also pose challenges to the achievement of the sustainable developmental goals. These are some of the challenges at the global level which is common to all the countries. So in order to make sure that population is utilized, policymakers must understand how many people are living on the planet, where they are, how old they are, how many people will come after them, and all these planning will have to be taken up by the governments of the respective states, and at the same time the global community will have to come together and address all the issues with respect to climate change, environment, so on and so forth. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says what will be the impact of euro dollar parity. Let's understand in brief because more of this will be discussed on our economy this week. The euro and the US dollar has reached parity, meaning $1 could buy 1 euro in the foreign exchange market. Earlier, if you had to buy 1 euro, you required more than $1, and with time as well, it was about 1.2 US dollars to purchase 1 euro, and now it is in parity. So $1 is equivalent to 1 euro. Why is this happening? That is because of the demand and supply issues that are existing in the market. When we look into the supply of a currency in a region or in a country, the supply of a country's currency in the foreign exchange market is determined by various factors such as central bank policy and the local demand for imports and foreign assets. When it comes to demand for a country's currency, on the other hand, it is determined by factors central bank policy and the foreign demand for exports and domestic assets. What do we mean by it? It means, let's say India is exporting a lot of products from India to some other country. So there are people who are asking for the Indian products. Since they are buying the Indian products, what they have to do is pay in the Indian rupees. So there is demand for the Indian rupees. Similarly, elsewhere in some other country as well, if a country is making a lot of exports, there is demand for that particular currency. If it is not, the demand will obviously start depreciating. How about the supply? When it comes to the supply, it depends on what the central bank intends, how much it has to produce. All that depends on the central bank policy. Now, why has the euro fallen against the US dollar? That is because of the divergence in the monetary policies of the US Federal Reserve as well as the European Central Bank, which happens to be the primary reason behind the Europe's significant depreciation against the US dollar. We saw the COVID-19. When COVID-19 hit, there were lockdowns that were imposed in multiple countries in the Europe, and there were limited lockdowns which are also imposed in United States of America. United States of America was open, but there were very limited lockdowns. So during this period, the monetary policy decided by the central banks of these countries as well as the European Commission were totally different. If we consider United States of America, the Federal Reserve and ECB, yes, expanded their balance sheet to boost the spending, but this soon led to the rise in the prices. Inflation in the US hit a 4-decade high of about 9.1% in June, while inflation in the Eurozone reached its highest ever of 8.6% during the same month. So what does the United States of America do? It starts raising the interest rate in order to slow down US money supply growth. The ECB, however, has been far less aggressive in tightening the policy, even though the inflation rate is high at 22% in some European countries. So this has caused the value of euro to slide against the dollar as currency traders witness or at least expect the supply of euros in the market raising relatively to the supply of dollars. What this means is there is excessive supply of the euro in the market, which means there is depreciation of the euro. Added to it, we also know for the fact that the Russian invasion of Ukraine did cause heartburn to the European countries. So when we speak about European countries, they were importing a lot of energy reserves from Russia, and it was all happening on a mutual basis. Now Russia invaded Ukraine, so they have stopped buying energy as well as gas from Russia, so they are now importing from United States of America, and they have to pay it in terms of dollars as well. As a result, this currency has further depreciated. So looking into different monetary policies and also the Russian war, it means that euro has dropped considerably and is almost equivalent to that of the dollar. Is euro alone suffering? No. There are many other countries' currencies which are also suffering as well. The Japanese yen is another major currency that has lost about 20% of its value against the US dollar this year, as the Japanese central bank continues to stick to its easy monetary policy. It is not just euro, but yen has also suffered in front of the dollar. So what is the way forward? ECB may be forced to raise the interest rates to slow down money supply growth in the Eurozone in order to prop up the value of the euro. We have to wait and watch how they will respond in order to mitigate this impact. But more on this will also be discussed on the economy this week. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, will RBI move help greater trade in rupee? This article says that the Reserve Bank of India has put in place a mechanism to facilitate international trade, where this international trade will happen in rupees. So invoicing, payment, settlement of exports and imports will happen in Indian rupees. Now the question is, what is this international trade settlement in rupees? Whenever there is one country interacting or conducting trade activities with another country, most of it happens on a dollar basis, because dollar is assumed one of the stable currencies. Since the US dollar is the world's reserve currency, most of the transactions that happen on the US dollar. Let's say, for example, we have a buyer from India, we also have a seller from Germany. So this particular buyer from India will start having interaction with the seller from Germany. So this person will buy a particular product. So what will happen? This person is selling a particular product. So this person has to convert the INR, Indian rupee, into the dollar. So this person who is selling it will use this dollar, again convert it into euro. So what is happening here? Dollar is acting as a bridge between two other countries. So Indian buyer will use the INR, that is the rupee, he'll get it converted into the dollar. This dollar is given to a person who is in Germany, and this person will again have to convert it into euro. So what is happening here? Both the parties involved have to incur some conversion expenses, and they also bear the risk of foreign exchange rate fluctuations. So this is where trade settlement in rupee comes into picture. So instead of paying and receiving US dollar, the invoice will be made in Indian rupee if the counterparty also has what is called as rupee vostro account. In this particular backdrop, we have to understand what is this vostro account, and we also have to understand what is this nostro account. Let me simplify this process so that you understand what is this vostro as well as nostro account. Let's say, for example, we have State Bank of India. Where is the State Bank of India? Let's say it is operating only in India. We do not have this branch, let's say, in London. So in London, what we have is the HSBC Bank. Since SBI is only present in India and HSBC is present in London, we do not have SBI present in London. So there is a representative acting for SBI in London. So HSBC is what is called as the correspondent bank. So SBI is not present in London. So SBI is requesting HSBC that, dear HSBC, we do not have a branch in London. So all the transactions that we are supposed to get, you take it and we will have some exchange. So what is HSBC saying? Yes, we will accept all the payments that you are supposed to receive. So what is the advantage for us? So SBI says that if you are receiving the payments on our behalf, we will also pay you certain amount. So this bank, which is acting as a representative of the SBI, is what is called as the correspondent bank. So what is this vostro account? A rupee vostro account is a foreign bank's account with an Indian bank in rupees in India. Let's say, for example, this HSBC is holding an account with the State Bank of India in the Mumbai branch denominated in the rupee, which is what is called as rupee vostro account. So basically, if SBI opens in London, that is called as the nostro account. But if HSBC opens an account in India and it operates on the rupees, that is what is called as rupee vostro account. So foreign parties will be able to send and receive money from the Indian importers and exporters via these rupee vostro accounts. Since it has its branch in SBI, this is what is called as the vostro account. Since SBI is asking HSBC, most of it is in London, it works according to the local currency. That is what is called as the nostro account. So nostro account is where Indian bank will ask another correspondent bank in some other country to operate in its local currency. But when it comes to vostro account, another bank will start operating from India and it requests the Indian bank to operate in terms of rupee. So how will this entire process work right now? Indian importers undertaking imports via this mechanism will make payment in the Indian rupee, which will be credited into special Vostro account of the correspondent bank of the partner country against the invoices for the supplies of goods or services from the overseas seller. And at the same time, Indian exporters making use of this mechanism will be paid the export proceeds in the Indian currency from the balances in the designated special Vostro account of the correspondent bank of the partner country. Why has the Reserve Bank of India come up with it? That is because as of now, such transactions are happening with respect to Russia as well. How does the new mechanism help India? Firstly, it will reduce the pressure on India's foreign exchange reserve. We don't have to interact, or we don't have to devise our trade on the basis of dollar. So what it means is dollar is not leaving the country, which means we would be able to regulate the pressure on the India's foreign exchange reserve. Secondly, it will signal the countries that they would actually bypass the dollar to trade with India. Analysts also say that Russia, being a large economy, growing trade with it in rupee can also function as a stimulus for other big countries as well, so that they can also trade in the rupee, which would eventually drum up the value of Indian currency over a period of time. Third, it will reduce pressure on the Indian government, leading it to devise independent trade related policies. Fourth, it would help the Indian currency to remain stable in the long run as well. This will be an advantage for India, and more of this topic will also be discussed on our economy this week. So please do tune in to our economy this week lectures. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, be especially chary of green pit vipers. The article here is speaking about snake bites. We've already recorded a video about the snake bites. A link for the same will also be given in the description box. So please look into it. What does this article say? If you look into the statistics, the global burden of snake bites is not known due to the lack of standardized reporting or underreporting, but available data say there are more than 1.4 million cases, resulting in 1,25,000 fatalities annually. More than 46,000 people, the highest on earth, die, and thrice the number are disabled due to snake bites every year, with 77% of the victims dying outside the healthcare facilities, indicating that people go for alternative treatment. And most snake bites in India are reported between June and September, and 58% of the victims are farmers and laborers. So this article currently goes on to say that whenever the venom is injected by the snake into this person, he will get disabled, and in some cases he may also pass away as well. So what we require is the anti venom. But what is the concern? When we look at India, we have about 4 snakes. The venom is taken from these snakes, and what we have produced is the anti venom. But whenever a snake is bitten, it is not only just these 4 snakes, there are other snakes as well. So whenever this anti venom is injected to a person who has been bit with the snake, it may not work as well. One size fits approach does not work as well, because the venom of these 4 snakes is totally different to other venoms from different other snakes. As a result, the anti venom does not work, and people may lose their lives, says this article. So if you look into this article, it goes on to say the green pit viper may not be more lethal than Russell's viper, the salt-scaled viper, the spectacled cobra, or the common trait, but what it injects from its poison glands often renders the polyvalent antivenom derived from the venom of other 4 ineffective. So the medicine that is derived from these species may not be useful, says this article. There have been other examples as well, where doctors have given injections, that is the antivenom, derived from other snakes, but since it is not useful, they inject more as well, and this has also resulted in adverse reactions. So this article currently goes on to say that taking the example of green pit viper, it also results in what is called as internal bleeding. The hemotoxic venom a green pit viper injects prevents the blood in the body of a bitten person from clotting, leading to internal bleeding. and as a result a person may die, and at times as well it can result in complications as well. So it is not helping is what is this article all about. There was a study conducted called as Beyond the Big Four. It said that there are snakes which also inject neurotoxins. There are snakes which inject cytotoxins as well, and neurotoxins is a poison that acts on the nervous system. Cytotoxins kill the cells in a body. So some of the anti-venom that is generated from snakes in India may not be successful against other snakes. So there is a recommendation that we have to come up with more anti-venoms, and at the same time we have to give awareness to the people so they do not get killed by these snake bites is what is this article all about. So creating an awareness and coming up with more anti-venoms is what this article recommends with respect to the snake bites. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. What are the Supreme Court's directives on grant of bail? Why does it recommend a separate bail act? Write a note on world population prospects and discuss the impact of India's population growth on economic development. Please write all your answers on the comment section, peer review, and do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.